Welcome into a brand new episode of the Patriots Hub podcast. Another Victory Monday here with David Andrews. I'm Alex Barth from 98.5 The Sports Hub. 3 wins in a row after the Patriots take down the Saints, David. It's becoming a little bit of a habit.
Yeah, I like my Victory Mondays, though, when I used to not have to work. Now I got to work on Victory Mondays.
Makes it a little easier, though, I think.
It does. It's a lot better to come in and talk about wins. And I think even when you are making corrections when you win, they feel a lot better than when you lose. And look, I think the team's improving each week. And there's definitely some areas we'll get into that have become a problem, and they got to correct to take the next step, I believe. But there's a lot of improvement, and it starts with Drake. And, I was on the pregame show Sunday, and they were kind of talking about, what's something he could do better because he's done so good.
Right.
And to me, it was his pocket movement, and I brought that up because you saw him make a lot of these, especially in Buffalo, these roll out, those amazing passes. And look, that's great. That's great he has that ability. It's great. It opens up the field for him, gets people out of his face, puts defenders in issues because you can't cover these guys all that long. But, when you've got a good pocket, I would like to see him take the next step inside the pocket. And he has the ability. We've seen him throw from the pocket. It's not like some of these guys where you're like, man, we got to get him out of the pocket so he can do good. No, he can do good from the pocket. But sometimes when you rely on your legs so much, that's your first instinct. And I thought this week, the first note I wrote was Drake's pocket movement, !, and underlined it. Because it was just, he looks so comfortable in the pocket this week. He moved a lot of his big throws. There wasn't a big throw outside the pocket. Yeah, he got outside the pocket and threw some, but it wasn't like, those were the only explosive plays.
Even his one kind of weird off-structure play was in the pocket when he had the little backhand to Henderson.
Yeah, like the touchdowns, the big throw to Diggs, which the penalties we'll get into, and how ridiculous I thought some of those were. He was stepping up in pockets, moving in pockets, and still hitting the touchdown to Booty, the BS call on Diggs, play to pop, and some of that too is the offensive line. Like the play to pop that got wiped out by the penalty, I counted 7 seconds. And now granted, it probably wasn't 7 seconds. I'm an O-lineman by heart, so I probably, counted a little quick there.
Certainly wasn't 3.
Exactly. Like it was pocket movement, getting to where you need to be and making the throw. And so to me, seeing him take that next step is, because I've played quarterbacks where it's like, we just got to keep him in the pocket and make him throw from the pocket. Now he's showing he can beat you outside the pocket and he'll beat you from inside the pocket. And that to me is the next step of his game where it will skyrocket. And it's not something that I thought would happen that quickly because he's still, we have to remind, he didn't play that much football last year.
No. And
he was in a different system. So this is all coming so fast for him. I do the podcast with Hoyer, the Quick Snap, and Hoyer said the other day, he was like, to me, he's made, in 17 games, because I think he just started his 17th game recently.
That sounds right, yeah.
He's made 3 years of improvement. And look, in a lot of that, I'm not discrediting anything Drake's done because he's the one doing it. But, I got to give my hat off to Josh McDaniels. And I believe in Josh. I love Josh. I played for him, had a lot of success for him. And, I know he's a great football coach and he's a great offensive-minded coach. And so, I know these are points of emphasis to Drake because it is the next step for Drake. And I think he took part of that step. Now, in saying that, you got to do it each week. And,
right.
It's just, I'm blown away with how well Drake May is playing. I knew he had it. And kind of like Brian said, I didn't know we would see it this fast.
It's happening right in front of our faces in real time. And your point about doing it each week, and you kind of touched on it there a little bit. Last week in Buffalo, it's a lot of this roll out to the right, throw on the run, and it worked, and it was good. But talking to people who cover the Saints, it sounded like the point of emphasis down there was keep him in the pocket, don't let him make those plays. Now he's shown that isn't an effective way of stopping him, at least in this one game. And you hear with young players all the time, and we're going to start hearing this with Drake. Well, once you get tape on him, it's different. Once you get tape on him, so what does it mean for him? What does it mean for the offense as a whole that he's kind of canceling out? He's showing that he's canceling out some of these counters you might want to throw at him as a defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think I go back to how playing for Coach Belichick, one of the best things is sitting in the meetings and you don't only just hear what the offense needs to do, you hear what the defense needs to do. And I put myself in those situations a lot, like what would Coach Belichick be telling us about this week? Even analyzing the team now.
Yeah.
And he would have said, keep Drake May in the pocket. Like, we got to make him beat us from inside the pocket. And some of that was because, I think we talked about it at Buffalo. Like, I didn't think he looked that comfortable in the pocket at times and didn't help out the O lineman or didn't do the best job of keeping his eyes down the field. And he's showing that now. And, it's kind of one of those things where you're like, well, we did keep him inside the pocket and he beat us from there.
Right.
So, look, I think as much as I said about last week with the Patriots and all the stuff, like how well the defense played, making the offense one-dimensional, right now the Patriots have been one-dimensional, and just thank God Drake May has been playing like a madman. It's going to get harder and harder each week for him to do that for a number of reasons, but he's doing it right now. He's carrying that burden, and it's impressive. And as a fan, like, you want to tune in at 1 o'clock on Sunday to see what this kid's going to do, and that's a cool thing to have. I think now.
It's been about 5 years since we've had that. We
Yeah.
know that feeling certainly around here. You mentioned it getting harder for the offense. I want to get to that in a minute with the run game, but before we wrap it on the pass game, I just want to ask you about Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah.
5 catches in this game, all for first downs in his homecoming in Louisiana. He has his last 10 catches went for first downs. Going back to the Steelers game, his first downs per target rate is the highest in the league by a significant amount. Tyreek Hill is second or was second before he got hurt. You played with Kayshon Boutte early in his career. Did seem like he struggled to get his feet under him his first few years in the NFL. What have you seen from him, and what has it been like to see him take this leap here in year 3?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, hats off for him. I mean, it's just, I'm really proud of Kayshon and what he's done, how he's grown as a person, man, and player. And I think it's a good reminder for us fans and media. Sometimes we cast people away too soon. And look, it's hard, and Kayshon wasn't a second, third, first round draft pick, so these expectations didn't get placed on him that much, from that standpoint.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about him personally, but outside,
Externally,
external expectations. But I think it's a good reminder of, sometimes guys just need a little bit time to develop. They're a little raw coming out of college, and even playing in the SEC, Big Ten, wherever it may be, sometimes you're just better than people, and you can rely on that. But then when you get to the NFL, everyone's good. And so you have to learn how to be a professional and learn how to craft your game and grow your game. And Kayshon's done that. And, talking about Henderson and Williams, look, they might fizzle out and might not ever produce for this football team. But let's not cast them away after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And have I been disappointed, especially with Henderson at some point? Yeah, like I have. But I think it's a good reminder to not jump ship yet and understand that these guys are going through such a big learning curve right now. Even though, like, Henderson played at Ohio State, played a lot of good talent and a lot of good teams, you're not faster than everyone in the NFL. Those windows in the NFL look open and they close very fast. And even something I had to learn. And I had a lot of success early my rookie year, and it caught up with me very fast toward the end of the year. Just everything that piled on, the longer season, and I ended up getting benched, and thankfully was able to correct it, and had the career I did. But it's hard, and so I just love seeing what Boutte's done. It's a hat off. It's credit to him for everything he's done in his personal life, on the field, off the field. And there's got to be no better feeling than going to your home state and having a game like that and making 2 touchdowns, impact plays. You know, I bet he probably played the game for free with how many tickets he had to buy.
I
So
think he said it was 40.
yeah, I mean they're probably $90 to $100. So you guys can do the math.
Yeah.
So you know, but that's got him and Will being down there. Um, you know, it's the first time Booty's played down there for his family. So I know that means a lot to those guys, and for Booty to go out there and have the game like he did, that's pretty cool.
You mentioned Trayvon Henderson in
Yeah.
there. Let's get to the run game because a week where there's a lot of talk about we're getting there, we're one guy away, one block away. Thought it was a point of emphasis, it might improve. It actually took a step back. So where are you at with the run game? And I'll just throw this in there as well. Do you have any thoughts on them maybe using Drake May anymore on designed runs?
I don't want to see Drake take unnecessary blows in the run game when he doesn't have to, personally.
Okay.
QB sneaks, all that stuff. It's more controlled. It's not that huge risk of an injury, but you just get out in open space, anything can happen, and I don't want to see that personally. So in the run game, look, it's I don't like to sit here and say these guys' technique's not good because I don't know what's being taught. I know what I believe in, and some of these plays are a lot of the plays I've ran in my career. I had the best offensive line coach to ever coach in the game. We did things different, and we were berated with them. Sometimes it was like drinking out of a fire hose from them. But so I have a belief system in how duo or certain run plays should be techniques should be used. Now they got, Doug Marone's a great coach. He's coached a long time. And there's different ways to skin a cat. But in saying that, when I look at the run game, and they're not always going to be pretty. But at times, it's just, I wrote down finish with exclamation points. And that is going to what Vrabel talked about. Especially on some of these outside zone runs, tosses, things like that. You're really out leveraged on the backside as an O lineman. You're blocking someone faster who's sometimes ahead of you. You got to go, and it's learning geometry and angles, and and in saying that, Jared Wilson's never played guard before. He's never played in the NFL before. So he's learning some of that stuff, and some of these guys are learning some of that stuff, and so they are right. Watching the game, frustrated watching the run game live. Going back and looking at it, it's still frustrating, but they are close to breaking some of these runs that are 3-4 yards, let's say 8 to the safety, who's going to be unblocked at times. And that's where your running back's got to make his money. It's just, at times, what I see is not a lot of movement. And that's going to happen. Sometimes those plays happen. There was one duo I saw. It was they don't get a lot of movement, and it's let me see where not getting in the second quarter. They just don't. The double teams are stalemated, and if they are, when you're running duo, it may be okay not to get movement, but you got to displace them laterally sometimes. So like sometimes we'd hit the hip, snatch. Now you got to climb to the linebacker. So that can be done. Like someone like Vince Wilfork or another big D tackle, which Gottschall is a big D tackle. We're not always thinking vertical movement. We might displace them laterally, right? Get them off balance, snatch them, climb up. But they're just on some of the double teams, especially the duo type runs, they just don't look connected in their double teams. A guy's half on, half off. Not getting shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Is you would think, oh, it's 2 versus 1, just get on them. But you got to be so technical, and you got to squeeze your hips together, squeeze your shoulders, allow no space, forklift the guy out of there. They're not doing a great job, in my opinion, on duo a lot of times with that. And then they're not getting to the linebackers because of that. Because then you've got guys, maybe like this. So if you get like this in a double team, that guy's able to split. You don't have a feel on who should come off, who shouldn't. It just gets hard. One thing I do think is interesting, the outside zone's been pretty good for him.
Okay.
And I think that's easier because when you're running outside zone, you get on tracks and you're running tracks. Now, in saying that, that's where some of these angles come into place and the finish comes into place because you got to get on these linebackers and you got to run to where they're gonna be, not where they are. And I've seen some of that, especially on the backside, which I mentioned is the hardest block. Um, and there was one they ran an outside zone right. Wilson's got to the linebacker, and you can see him go to where I think it was Warner. Warner's standing, and he takes off because that's the flow of the play. And then Jared tries to create this angle, and he can't get there. Warner's faster than him. That's just
Right.
reality. So you got to go to where they are. And a lot of times on the outside zone, if they go behind you, they're going to take themselves out of the play. And or if they do beat you across the top, if you can get on his back shoulder and just run, the running back's going to see that and be able to cut behind you. But if you're just on him, that's where he can fall off. There's here's one I wrote in the third quarter at 12:49 mark. Left guard better angle is a big play, and it's close, but close doesn't count. And
Right.
I said last week what I thought the defense did such a good job of was making the Bills' offense one-dimensional. Right now, the Patriots have been one-dimensional, in my opinion. The run game, they're bottom 20 in the league in rushing right now. They it's not a threat. And granted, hats off to Drake May and the offense because they found ways to get points and move the ball. But even in the end of the drive, you know, that should be a drive where they stick in 6 runs and you're just bullying them at the end of the game. 4-minute drill, bullying them. And look, the run game kind of goes back to my most disappointing drive was where Drake scrambles, gets the ball on the 2-yard line, and you run 2 running plays, and now you're 5 yards negative. And
So what went wrong? What went wrong there?
well, the first one, they stick it in there, and it wasn't great. It was okay, and then the next one, and again, this kind of goes back to I don't know what's being taught. There's more ways to skin a cat. It's successful at times. Dante Scarnecchia never wanted to pull guys on the goal line. It was his fault. He said one time in a meeting room, the day we pull someone on the goal line, and maybe this came from Bill, maybe this is what Dante believed in a combination of both. He goes, the day we pull someone on the goal line, I'm fired. And he goes, if someone asks me to pull someone on the goal line, that's the day I quit. So, they ended up pulling the guard. And look, it does create an advantage because it puts another blocker front side. Will, on that one, defense is in like a 6-2 front, so it's gapped out. It's very traditional goal line front. Bradbury has to block the A gap. The hard block on that one is Will's got to cut the B gap player. And he slips and falls on the cut block. To me, that's a culmination of the league and how it's played now because he's not cut blocking a lot on that kind of play. You just don't.
Yeah.
You don't get to practice it. You don't get to do it a lot because you don't want to cut your own guys in practice. So it's a hard block, rookie, but that was the issue on that play. It just it's okay right now. They're winning. But eventually, as the season goes on, especially, you're going to need to control games. You're going to want to physically impose your will on people. And the best way to do that is the run game. And you're going to need it in crucial moments in the game. And you don't want to be one-dimensional. And you want that. I mean, if they could get 100 yards a game in rushing right now,
Yeah.
be better. And now your offense goes from, gaining, 300 yards a game to 400 yards a game, or 250 yards a game to 350 yards a game. And it's just not there yet. I think they're close. I think the outside zone's been good. I would like to see them try to major in that a little more because, like I said, I just think it fits where this offensive line's at a little bit, in my opinion. It just makes it easier. I don't prefer outside zone runs personally. I would prefer to go downhill, duo, gaps, inside zone, things like that because it's just more attacking. When I played, we had a great feel for that as a football team. Um, but like I said, I think it's a combination of everything. It's finishing up front. It's better technique, better double teams, and look, eventually the back's got to make people miss and try to get out of some of these tackles. The last thing I'll say about the run game, it's not a big thing, but I saw it toward the end of the game, especially is I don't love Diggs blocking the force. And then saying that, that's my biggest gripe with receivers as an O lineman and why I love Julian so much. But the way Diggs is playing, I'm okay with him not blocking force right now. Let this Joker go catch balls. So, um, look, it's so close, and like I said, I don't want to sit here and berate guys over their technique because I don't know what's being taught. And like I said, I've seen a lot of teams block duo different ways and be successful. Right now, it's not connected to me. The double teams aren't great, and when you're running duo, if you don't have good double teams, that play's hard to run.
How about the backs partner, and specifically Mondre? So Antonio Gibson goes down.
Yep.
Ramondre Stevenson, large share of the workload
Yep.
yesterday. I think he played over 40 snaps, and it just to me, it's this interesting spot where he's not making as much of an impact running the ball, making guys miss. Maybe some of that's being a little more conservative with the ball security, but he's making these other plays that are making a big difference just when he doesn't have the ball in his hands.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the whole thing, what we've talked about, and you've heard Vrabel and Josh and the coaches talk about what he provides for the team is, and why maybe Trayvon Henderson isn't getting the share as people thought he would get. And it's the pass game. It's what he does in blitz pickup. I mean, we talked about the one off the air. There was the one, I believe it was Drake's big scramble, right? We said, look, Demario Davis is a great player in this league. He's a hell of a blitzing linebacker. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. Mondre steps up there, cuts him. It allows Drake to scramble. Drake scrambled for whatever it was, 20-something yards maybe. And then the one I wrote down, because it wasn't a cut block, it was third down to end the game. It was in the fourth quarter, 2:40, so crucial moment in the game to extend this drive. They bring blitz. Mondre steps up, blocks his guy, just stones him, and Drake's able to deliver the ball, get the first down, and we end the ball with the game. I mean, that is a crucial moment in a game, doing your job, and that to me is why Ramondre's out there. Maybe if it was a different scenario, like, I don't know, but that's why he's beneficial to this football team because he's done that, and we've seen Trayvon struggle at times with that stuff. So hopefully that's getting better for Trayvon, but the blitz pickup for Ramondre is such a crucial part of the game for your back. It's why James White played as much as he did. Granted, he was a great player. He got the ball in his hands, did great things, but what James White did in pass pro for us was unbelievable, and that's what Mondre's doing a great job of right now. So it just, you gotta love to see that personally from me, and maybe that shows or explains to people why he is so valuable to this football team.
All right, let's get to the unfortunate thing that we have to talk about with this game. It is the officials. You want the officials to not be a storyline. You want them to just go out, be consistent, keep the game moving, and not be the story. And Adrian Hill's crew, 0 for 3 in that regard. 2 phantom DPI calls on Diggs, a phantom non-DPI call on Matt Collins. You had them not being able to figure out the play clock late in the game after it was a good challenge by Mike Vrabel on the Keyshawn Booty play. I could go on. I'll do my pod with Matt Dolph later, so I'll get my whole rant there. But, as a player, when it's that all over the place, what do you do? How do you adjust?
So, I'll say this in defense of the refs at first.
Okay.
Football is implementing more rules. Every year you watch, it's brutal. It's in the middle of training camp. It's the last thing you want to do. Usually it's felt like it was to end the day, but you have this league office video and it explains what's the point of emphasis, new rules, whether it's been taunting, different things like that. Um, the cut blocks a few years ago was a big one. So as you add more rules, now you're making the refs' jobs harder. But in saying that, that's what they signed up for. So let's get into the digs first that took away Pop's big play.
Yeah.
To me, if they threw it to Diggs, like let's say Drake got pressured, Diggs was a sideline receiver on the side, he threw it over his head just to bail out of the play. Should have been a penalty on either one, guys. You see that. Like, I don't know exactly what the rule is, but it's something about like each player, and I've heard refs say this in training camp, each player defensively and offensively are entitled to their ground and stand their ground. To me, that's all it was.
Just engaging.
Yeah, like it was just, is what it is. And in saying that, I've had refs come up to me on a play and been like, hey, that could have been holding. It was inconsequential to the play, but, if the play was ran right at you, I'm going to throw it. And you want refs to do that with you. I've always respected refs that will communicate with you. And it kind of goes back to the Hunter Henry play in Buffalo, right? Like if we were running a trick play and we're trying to confuse the defense on if the tackle was covered up to run a tackle eligible type pass, then that had something, Hunter's alignment had something to do with that play. But Hunter was trying to communicate with the ref. It had no, consequences of the play. Like to me, the ref shouldn't have thrown the flag. He should have gone over to Hunter and been like, hey, that could have been a penalty. I saw you trying to communicate with me. Do this better next time. If not, I'm going to throw it. So in saying that on the Diggs play, whatever they saw, which I don't know what they saw, it had no impact on the play.
They said they saw Diggs try to block.
And I understand that. But it wasn't like we were running a swing pass to the running back on the sideline and it went for 80 yards, a touchdown. Like whatever they saw, it had no bearing on the play. Like when you talk about DPI and holding, okay, yeah, he threw it to across the field. Well, you don't know if his read was looking at the receiver that was getting held on the other side of the field. So that's different. In that consequence with Diggs, like it had no bearing on the play. I don't know how you can throw that. And it just seemed weird. And then really the one that drove me insane watching it back this morning was the long pass to Diggs. One, because I was so proud of Drake May's pocket movement.
It's a hell of a throw too.
So how I've always understood the rule, and this is coming from someone like Gronk, and the refs talking to him, the coaches talking to him. When Gronk got to the top of the route, he was so big, he was so strong that he would push guys off. And you are taught to do that, right? Hunter does a great job of this. Now, Hunter's not 6'7", 275 or whatever Gronk was. But, when Gronk got in trouble, which he got called for him a few, it was really where he extended.
Yeah.
So I'm watching the Diggs play, right? And he's running, and he does have his hand on the guy. I'm not arguing that. He's on the guy. You can't argue it. And how I interpret it, he never extended. You never see his elbow flex. One, because the ball was just beautifully dropped in. So he's literally running like this, and he's got his hand on the guy. And when the ball comes, he just turns and releases his hand. Granted, if the ball was a little bit further and he really shoved the guy to like excel himself, I could understand the call.
Yep.
In my mind, he never extended his arm. I mean, I didn't see it. His arm is bent or flexed or whatever you want to say right here the whole time, and he just turns and catches the ball. I don't understand how that's a penalty. And in saying that too, the booty touchdown where he caught it like on the 1 yard line and kind of stumbled in with three guys. I think they called
they called roughing on
the unnecessary roughness.
Taylor, yeah, which that was a phantom call too.
I thought that was a clean hit, so it's not just like me being a Patriot homer.
No, it was
that to me was a clean hit on
Taylor.
Yeah, like he just I don't know. He didn't take his head off. He didn't do anything. To me, it was a clean play. So it's both sides of the ball, or a coin, whatever you want to say. That I really just some of the calls I don't know. And like you said, I think that's the biggest thing is look. sure, there's the integrity of the game and cheating, and if it's an obvious foul that impacts the game just because it's a cool play, doesn't mean you can't call it. But
Right.
when it has no impact on the game, we're watching it to be entertained, right? We're watching it to see. That's what people want to see: big plays, scoring. How do you throw a flag in that moment? It has no impact. Like, and I will say the one on Diggs, I can't understand because in real time it could look like when I saw it for the first time, I was like, oh well, he did have his hands on. Then going back and watching it, I don't know what year was it when they could challenge? Remember they
Oh
could challenge
yeah,
pass interference.
I want to say that was like 22. I think.
Yeah, like I mean, I was playing, so I remember it, and I don't know if going back to that is like maybe do we give them like you get one penalty challenge a game, and then your two call it play
Regular, yeah.
penal or play challenges because it's just yeah, and like I will say in the ref's defense is so bang bang, it's so fast. I understand him seeing that and then the big catch, but I just to me this one, the one to Diggs that he caught wasn't as egregious as the one to Pop.
Yeah.
I can't understand. I can't wrap my
The
head
crazy
around
thing
that
for
one.
me is like I would rather than call as a fan, right? Watching this, like you said, it's an entertainment product, which the NFL needs it to be. I would rather them call it consistently strict than be all over the place. I'd obviously rather they let him play.
Yeah.
But like consistency, and then the other thing that I want to ask you is, so on that one to Taylor, like we didn't know, and this was watching on TV. Maybe it was easier to tell in the stadium, but at first it sounded like the penalty was on the Patriots, and then they had
Yeah.
this long discussion, and we didn't know if they were going for two or if that was the first down play from the one. Like, because it took forever for them to discuss it. As a player, how tough is that when you have a crew that's not just throwing a lot of flags, but is taking their time and huddling, and everything's a 5 minute conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, honestly, it just pisses you off because you're playing, you want to be in a rhythm. Maybe if it was a long drive, it's maybe a nice breath of fresh air.
Fair
But
enough.
I will say this in the Patriots good
Yeah.
category, the one to Pop that got taken away on the phantom block by Diggs. I thought it showed a lot of maturity to
Yes.
not let that derail that drive. They still ended up with a touchdown. That to me, looking at it is a positive.
Some teams just let that
It
totally
can, it
deflate
can,
them. Yeah.
it can derail you, and I thought that was a lot of maturity by this football team to kind of flush that, keep going, and end up making that drive a touchdown. Um, because like I said, it could have deflated them, it could have derailed the game, changed the points in the game. Um, so that to me, I thought showed a lot of maturity and bounce back, which was good.
All right, let's get to the Titans here real quick, and I got to start with Jeffrey Simmons, one of my
Yes.
favorite players to watch in the league. I think he's an underrated player. What kind of challenge is he going to bring, especially as the Patriots try to get their run game going?
I don't know if I never underrated him. I mean, this Joker is a great football player. He's one of these guys that just possesses an interesting skill set. He's big, he's long, he's strong, he's fast. Um, and look, sometimes the D tackles don't, get 16, 17 sacks a year, but they cause, in my believe sometimes D tackles can be more disruptive on a game plan than a great D end because they're in the middle. They can affect the run game. Sometimes the D ends you can mitigate with the run game and doing different things. And
I mean, we're seeing it with Milton Williams right now here.
yeah, and Barmore. I throw both
too,
those
yeah.
guys in there, and then you got Tonga who's playing great. But yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be a big challenge. It always is. He's a great player. He's having a great year. Um, and it's one of these games like the next, I guess, what is it, 3 games now? These are teams the Patriots should beat.
Titans, Browns, and I think Falcons.
Yeah, these are teams the Patriots should beat. But there are also games where these teams now, like the Saints, building, playing better. It's just you gotta have that stamina each week, and they might not be good teams. They still got people on the other side of the ball in certain positions that can wreck your world. Simmons being one. Throw Ridley in for the Titans.
Yeah.
Like it's every week now. And to me, how they went out and played last week, they improved. They got better. There's still a lot to clean up. There's still things that can get them beat, like the fumbled snap. That was, a bad situation. Not scoring on the goal line right there is a huge play, in my opinion. And in certain games, is going to matter a lot more than it did on Sundays. So there's still a lot of areas for this team to clean up. And I think the coaches and the leaders on the team have done a good job each week of improving those things. But it's going to be a big chess this week with him inside. Uh, Running the ball, protecting the quarterback, not letting this guy disrupt the game because he's very, very capable of doing that. And I'm excited to see it. It's. I just want to see them keep improving each week, and I worry about the score, but there's areas I'd like to see them improve. And I think number one for me right now is the run game because, like I said, as much as I gave the Patriots flowers to the Patriots defense last week, the Patriots are getting that done to them. Thankfully, Drake May's playing outside of his mind, but eventually that's going to put so much pressure on him, and I would love to see him do it every week. It's hard to do it every week. He's done it every week so far, but eventually that could come back to haunt him, and I would like to see them take a step forward against a good D lineman and run the football this week.
And just schematically, too, teams can start sitting on the pass game more. Real quick, Cam Ward, what have you seen from him?
Yeah, look, he's figuring it out. He's a rookie. I don't know. I think we've seen the most resurgence out of guys' NFL careers of getting in the right situations.
Baker might win MVP.
Yeah. Daniel Jones, it's really, Sam Darnold, it's cool to see a lot of these guys who we would consider bust and different things like that go on to flourish in certain places. So, look, he's learning it. You could see rapid improvement from him. I thought they played better last week. It'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, I think the Patriots have done a good job defensively. They've kind of been in this bend, don't break. The Saints were able to move the ball. I thought Spencer Rattler played pretty good. But at the end of the day, the Patriots held them to field goals. And it's hard to win games just scoring 3 points. So if they can keep doing that, that'll be good. But it's one of those things you just never want to doubt your opponent. You never want to feel comfortable and feel like you got it under control because that's when shit hits the fan.
He's David Andrews. You can hear him on Zolak and Bertrand Mondays at 11 o'clock, also on the Patriots pregame show. For more of this show, you want to hear any of his comments on past games or more episodes, myself, Matt Dolph, other guests, check out the Patriots Hub podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, or the Sports Hub YouTube page. And, of course, we've got more content on 985thesportshub.com. David, thanks as always. And
Thank you,
we'll
man.
talk
Like
next
these
week.
Mondays.
Hopefully we get another victory
let's
Monday
keep
next
doing
week.
it.
Let's keep it rolling.